Hi, everybody. Welcome to Initiation into Mystery, our 15-part series on the mysteries of the Rosary.
This is episode 13, The Descent of the Spirit.
This is a big one, and we're really coming up on the end of our whole adventure together through the mysteries. And in a certain way, this is the climax of everything. This is
Yeah,
where we've been headed from the beginning with the
yeah,
Annunciation.
yeah.
Um, we're going to use the same process. What is the story? Just flat. What is the bigger story around the story? And then what does our own imagination
Hmm.
bring to this story and to this mystery? And how can we begin to open it up? So let's look. This is very much a mystery about timing. And our novena comes from this story.
Right.
Jesus ascends after 40 days. And then for 9 days, the apostles and Mary Magdalene, Mary, his mother, it's not clear, probably Mary Magdalene, are in an upstairs room together hiding because the soldiers are looking for everybody. And they spend 9 days there in prayer. On the 10th day, the
The 50th
50th
day.
day,
Yeah.
Pentecost means the 50th day, a great wind comes through the room, the ruach, the
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
And
It fills this room. That's not a wind filling a room is odd enough in
it's
itself.
a
And then
closed room.
cloven flames of fire appear above the heads of the disciples.
It's almost like each disciple is a candle, and this wind blows through and lights the wick at the top of
Yeah.
their heads.
Yeah.
And it's this incredible moment of, we talk about the Buddha's enlightenment, but this is kind of this genuinely, literally shown as an enlightenment of an entire community of people.
Yeah, and in the paintings, usually you see, the disciples and Mary gathered there. They have flames above their heads, tongues of fire. Mary is often not shown with a tongue of fire. The implication being that she is the embodiment of the Holy Spirit.
She is the fire.
Yeah,
And in fact, she is the burning bush. She is I am that I am.
right.
She is the goddess. And
Mm.
that wind that blows through is the ruach, the
Yeah,
is that feminine energy of God.
right.
The Holy Spirit is not a gender neutral term.
Yeah,
It is a feminine term.
right.
And it really is talking about the goddess.
Mm.
So in a certain sense, everybody there is, oh,
Right.
getting it. Now this 9 day period, we base our novena on this 9 day period. And every novena is some configuration of 9 days, 9 hours, nine memoraries, nine this, nine that. The 50.
6 times 9 for our 54-day novena.
But in the Mediterranean of Jesus's day, a 9 day period of initiation was standard.
Yeah. And there were novenas, 9-day period festivals and periods of prayer in Roman religion as well. And so
Eleusinian
this was
mysteries took
imported,
9 days for the
right?
initiation.
This was imported from the mystery cults of the Mediterranean.
So they're just piggybacking off a much older
Yeah.
tradition of a 9 day initiation period.
Okay. Now, speaking of older traditions as well, this is entirely a Jewish thing in the beginning. It doesn't really get Christianized for at least one or two generations after the death of Jesus. So what they're really celebrating here is a Jewish festival, the festival of the gathering in of the wheat harvest, right? And so this happens 50 days after Passover. And so there's the 49th day after Easter, right? And then the 50th day. So Jesus has been in this kind of bardo state, during this period of time, and then he ascends into heaven, and for 9 days, the disciples, I think, they're asking the obvious question: is we have this sort of focal leader, this person who has embodied the spirit, who has departed from us. What happens now?
What happens next?
What happens next? What do we do? What are we about? What are we to? How are we to manifest this?
And what they're filled with is that feminine fire. And that feminine fire gives them remarkable abilities.
Hmm.
They can heal with their hands.
Yeah.
They can speak languages.
Right.
They can be understood. People have heard speaking in tongues. It often comes from a kind of misunderstanding of this moment with the Pentecost. It's a sense that they can communicate, they can be understood, they can understand, they can
Right.
hear.
Or not a misunderstanding. I mean, it's ecstatic speech. There is a kind of an ecstatic speech that people can, a song really, the ability to communicate with other people directly through sound.
Almost like an animal,
Yeah,
the
or
way an
like
animal.
mantra or bird song. So there, and what happens is there are all these people gathered in, and depending on how you read the story, you're either 12 people there plus Mary, or there 120 people plus 12 plus Mary for 133. So the room can be very very filled depending on which version of the story
But let
you
me go to
read.
the last detail of the miracles. So they can heal, they can speak, they can communicate. And this is so interesting. They can handle snakes. Now we've seen the snake once before in the in the Bible, and that was creating all the trouble in the Garden of Eden. And that's when Eve is separated from the snake. The goddess
Right.
is separated from her
Yeah.
familiar. And suddenly the snake is back.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting, are they having an initiatory experience of the goddess here?
Yeah. And if you look for
Almost
that,
seems like they are.
if you look for that detail in Acts, you won't find it. You'll find it in, I think, the end of Mark, where it
That's it.
talks about, but it refers to the Pentecost, right? But it talks about the ability to handle snakes, and if they're bitten, they won't die. So they're immune to the poison of snakes. They have no fear of snakes anymore.
And so, but this is a direct reclamation of the goddess's snake.
Mm-hmm.
Now you sometimes see Mary with her foot on the snake. Go look at that foot on the snake. She rests her foot on the snake's back exactly the way Kali rests her foot on
Mm.
Shiva's chest. Shiva's chest.
And the language that's used to describe the tongues of flame, it says they are cloven tongues of flame, right? Like the cloven tongue of a serpent that dances. All right, now, so let's go full Da Vinci Code here. So what we're seeing, okay, and there are all kinds of mashups going on. Every religion, will try to convince you that it's absolutely pure. There are no influences of other religions that try to pretend that people weren't constantly traveling back and forth and sharing their ideas with one another and their folk tales and their legends. This is the Kundalini serpent, right, that lies at the base of the spine, at the base chakra. That when a person achieves an exalted spiritual state
They're
like
all
this,
having their Kundalini
ascends
awakening.
all the way through all of the seven chakras to the top. The serpent ascends to the topmost chakra, and you see there a violet colored flame that seems to emanate from the top of the head. So that's what we're seeing in this story, is the activation of that crown
Or,
chakra.
as the young people like to say today, everyone's having a Kundalini awakening at this moment. There it is. And what that Kundalini awakening is the very building of the column of saints within them.
Yeah,
The seven devils of Mary Magdalene. These are the seven activation points Mary Magdalene is going to talk about in her gospel.
right,
It's nothing big and esoteric. It's just happened.
right.
They're integrated. They've got it.
Yeah,
But I want to look at what happens directly afterwards, because they don't take their miracle and go home. They take their miracle and they go out into the world with it.
mm,
And they want to share it with other people. They want other people. It's like your candle gets lit, and what you want to do is light somebody else's. The
yeah.
joy pours into you. And that joy is so profound that the way it continues to flow into you is by giving it away to somebody else.
Right. And in Jewish mysticism, you see oftentimes this image used of a one flame lighting another. And the wisdom of that image is that a flame is not diminished by sharing itself
Uh-uh.
with another. You take one candle and use it to light another candle. The candle you've used is not diminished by that lighting, right? The flame simply passes from one person to another and to another until the whole world is bright.
Yeah, Maureen brings up her touch and the thing. If you watch, she's resting her foot on the snake. If you rested your foot like that on a snake, it would bite you if it wasn't absolutely in love with you from the
If it
bottom
wasn't,
of its being.
that's right. If it wasn't friendly to you, it would. Yeah.
She's not crushing it.
And by the way, since we're on the subject, the symbol for Shiva, right? We talked about Mary standing atop the serpent in the same way that Kali stands atop Shiva. The symbol for Shiva is the cobra. Oftentimes, he's shown with a cobra coming out of his chest.
Yeah.
Right.
But talking about this moment of Pentecost, so we do our 9 day novena, and at the end of it, this is the fireworks explosion. This is the grand finale. Oh my gosh, we've gone through joy, we've gone through sorrow, we've had the resurrection. The resurrection isn't the big moment. This is the big moment. This is the moment where the flame that Jesus has had is used, lights all these other candles,
Right.
that everybody is understanding everything. And so it's very ecstatic, but it happens in community.
Now, what you find in Christianity is a ritualization and commodification of this experience, okay? And you're constantly seeing in Christianity renewal movements that are basically trying to get back to this moment. Every renewal moment that I can think of in Christianity, the Pentecostal movements, even to some extent Protestantism, efforts at reform are always trying to get back to this moment when Jesus is not just a singularity, but he is a candle that lights other candles. He is an empowering individual.
But I think but I would like to just look at our own group for a minute and look at the whole idea of community and what happens. Because that novena happens not individuals in different places all over the place. They've come together to pray together. And that I think is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about why the magic happens when we come together to share prayer,
Hmm.
and why we have Zoom meetings, and why we have Wave the Rose, and why it makes a difference to be with other people. Why, when Bill Wilson was founding AA, did he know that you had to get people together, sitting in a room together, that if they had friends help, two alcoholics together could help each other doing this.
Right.
One couldn't do it on their own.
Right.
But it's what Jesus said: bring 2 or 3 people together, and then some sort of alchemical magic begins to happen.
My Zen teacher used to say, try building a fire with one log, right? You can't do it. You can sit there, you have all the matches in the world holding them up to the log, and you never catch it on fire. But if you have a couple of pieces of newspaper and 3 or 4 logs to put together, then suddenly you've got a fire. And it's the same way with spiritual friendship. When we have spiritual friends, suddenly we have everything we need in order to transform our lives, to produce, to invite miracles into our
And what
lives, and all
happens,
kinds of healing.
and if we can stay with that metaphor, because what happens is one person experiences a miracle and that miracle ignites everybody else.
Yeah.
We don't know, was it simultaneous? That's what you see happening in groups who pray together.
Yeah, it's
It's
contagious.
contagious.
Yeah, it really
The
is.
joy is contagious. The miracles are contagious. The magic is contagious. And they take that out into the world.
They do.
We're going to go out and tell other people. Now,
Yeah.
it's really hard moment because evangelical Christianity has certainly put a bad name on evangelicism. Let me
That's
tell you,
right.
we have 2,000 years of getting it wrong. Um, but spreading the good news uh, was initially just a way of one alcoholic talking to another,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's what Bill Wilson said.
And I think for we're better off probably as a group taking our bearing off of something like AA than we are, off Christian evangelicism, because the early members of AA had found something that worked for them, right? This was good news. I mean, there were people who came into the group early on, especially I think, and who are really very, very close to death's door. A lot of them have been institutionalized. A lot of them had terrible health problems. They were struggling with suicidal. Some of them have made several suicide attempts already. And they came together and they discovered that by working together and supporting one another and following these few simple, principles, that they could get sober and that they could begin to rebuild their lives. And the proof was in the pudding, and that was their families. And the thing that spread AA fastest, I think, in the beginning was the fact that the families would say, "Oh my God, my husband is sober or my wife is sober, we have a family again, suddenly our lives are working again.
And what you will find, and what we want to do is we want to be that we're finding joy is our sobriety. We want to find our sobriety from this culture of madness and insanity and this culture of
Right.
empire, and find even right now, COVID's going on, things, the planet's collapsing, the society's collapsing,
Yeah.
everything's really a
Yeah.
catastrophe. And right now, how is this an answer to a prayer?
Yeah.
How is this a moment for joy? How is this a moment for, because let me tell you, those apostles in that upstairs room, they're in a a occupied city.
Yeah.
They're being hunted by the police and the soldiers.
Yeah. People are looking for them.
They're going to be killed if they're found. Okay, this is not a good time. This is not an easy time. It's not a good time. Everyone in 20 years is going to be dead. And yet, this is a moment of glory and joy.
And it's also something, even, there's some very, very basic miracles here. The story talks about the fact that people are coming together from all over the place and they don't speak the same language. They don't even speak the same dialect of Hebrew, a lot of them. Some of them don't even speak Hebrew at all. They're all gathered together. And suddenly, when the disciples begin to speak and to preach, each person in the room hears the message in their own language. That's the miracle. So it's a kind of a reverse Tower of Babel, and the Pentecost is often described that way, as suddenly people are able to gain an understanding from within, like in their own language. And it's not like something that's being handed down from above. It's not something that's being imposed upon them,
No,
right?
it's coming from within
And
them.
yeah, it's ignited within them like that flame.
And a lot is thrown out about Gnosticism. And Gnosticism, by the way, wasn't a coherent set of ideas. It was just a different, sort of less empiric version of Christianity. But what Gnosticism said was, this is all inner work we're doing.
Yeah.
This is building those chakras from within. And this suddenly we're lit on fire. We are the candle that has been lit. Um, and it's what we're hoping to have happen in our own novenas.
Yeah.
And it's what we walk a 54-day novena. We take it to a 9-day novena, and we do it with friends, and we don't know what's going to happen. But suddenly some magic starts to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not always as dramatic as this. I mean, I was very struck. Small miracles can be very, very profound when people share them in a group.
Yeah.
And big miracles happen all the time too. But it doesn't always have to be fireworks. Sometimes it can be as small as a birthday candle. And we think of the magic of a birthday candle,
Yeah.
and how suddenly it can change the face of a child
And
or a
once
whole
you have a
room.
flame, you can have a fire. So it does, even a very small flame is often enough. And I think it's worth talking about a little bit. What is the value of this? I mean, we need to remember that the novena is not just something that we do alone, like a devotion or a practice, but something we do together as a group. And in fact, the novenas are really kind of for that. And as this first novena illustrates. So, what is it? What is the value of coming together, say, in a regular weekly Zoom meeting or phone meeting, or when we're able to do it again,
In person.
in person, like we used to, with face-to-face meetings, starting
And
various
hugs.
places around the country and around the world. So, what is the value of that? Why do you need that? Why do you want to do it?
Well, I'm going to talk a little. Why don't we talk personally for a minute? Because I'm
Yeah,
going to tell you what happens to me and why did I want Rosary Friends. I prayed the Rosary alone for a long time. And Clark didn't even pray it for a while.
no,
Like, I had the kids. I'll be honest, I had the kids. But I really dreamt of having Rosary Friends. And what were Rosary Friends, and what did they make happen for me? And I think one of the big things is I would hear Our Lady in the voices of the people in the room. I would find answers to my prayer in things they said. I would learn how to pray from things they said. I mean, one of the first things I learned about prayer in our in-person Woodstock group, and I see Lynn is there, and I miss you,
yay!
Lynn.
Me
Come
too.
pray at the shrine with us. Um, One of the things I learned was I was keeping my prayer at a distance. and I wasn't getting any skin in the game. So Sophie was very sick, and so I was praying. I pray Sophie gets better. I pray Sophie gets better. I pray Sophie gets better. And it's like hopping on one foot over and over again until you're exhausted beyond words. And then I started to pray, Lady, show me how to help her when she's in pain.
Mm.
Lady, guide me to the doctors who can lead us to the right doctors.
Yeah.
Lady, help me not get frightened when she's frightened.
Mm.
Show me. There was a lot to pray for. And what I began to see is like it was a tight knot. And with the help of my friends, that knot began to loosen.
Mm. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about what would seem small miracles to some and big miracles for others. But here's Lynn Herring, one of our Woodstock Rosary Circle members, who's on. I see typing in the live feed here. Lynn brought her dog one night. She'd gotten some bad news. There were some. She had tumors, I believe. The
Doc did,
idea,
yeah.
Doc did,
Diagnosed with cancer.
diagnosed with cancer.
Lynn, correct us if we get the details
Yeah, if we
wrong.
get the details wrong, correct us. But brought Doc to a meeting, and we all prayed. And she said, "Please, I need for this is my number one companion here, my beloved dog, and I really need for her to be well." And she got a call back, I think, what the next day, and the doctors had done another
Yeah, we
set
look
of
at it again. We look
tests.
at the results again.
Look
We
the
don't think it's
results again.
cancer.
Yeah, we don't think it's cancer, actually. We don't think she has cancer, which was kind of miraculous because we had sort of given, I think Lynn was terribly worried. The rest of us were worried that, that this might be it.
And this gives us faith
That's
for
right.
our prayer.
Yeah.
And there was a woman who prayed with her husband through a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
By the way, he's all better. um, uh, that was, and she didn't just pray, heal my husband from cancer. She prayed through the insurance fighting. She prayed to find the right doctor.
Yeah.
They prayed to get him enough food. They prayed, they, I'm gonna have to stop. Doc is 13 now, I know.
That's right. Len just wrote Doc is 13 now.
but
And this was what, probably 4 or 5 years ago?
But this woman prayed her way. I've seen
Yeah.
prayer is a journey with a lot of different steps. And what that's you learn the dance steps. I guess it's a kind of TikTok, right? You learn the dance steps by praying with your friends. You see, so I like that move. I want to try that out.
Yeah.
Teach me that move. It's fun to dance with friends.
And it and
And you
it
get less self-conscious when you're with a whole big group.
and you build faith by doing this too. Like you build faith in a group. That's the fire that when you put the logs together starts to burn. And once
Faith.
it
Faith
start
is the fire.
yeah, once it starts to burn, all kinds of things become possible. It really changes your real sphere. I'll give you an example. Early on in our group, a lot of people prayed for their health. Okay, we had a member who's, as Perdita mentioned, whose husband was diagnosed with terrible cancer. Okay, everything, he got through the treatments. He came out the other side of it. He's in perfect health now. So we began to pray for Sophie. And, sometimes she would get very bad numbers. The doctors would examine her and they would say, oh my gosh, she's like really sick. She's in liver failure. She's in kidney failure, whatever. We would go, we would pray at a nearby shrine. And then we would call and say, do the test again. And they would do the test again. And the numbers would come back and they were perfectly normal. And this happened again and again.
I think the hard part, and this is sometimes, it wasn't like I prayed once, snapped my fingers, and my daughter was miraculously cured of this horrible genetic illness she's got. She's on a journey.
Yeah.
She's on her illness has been very much a journey for her. I have had to learn a great deal. This illness has been a journey for me, and for Clark, and for our family, and we've learned a lot. Everything we're given, we have an opportunity to learn about prayer. And in a lot of ways, I think it's prepared me for hard times. Like, give me a minefield, I'll pray my way through it. I've learned, Our Lady has given us so many minefields. And every
Yeah.
time she'll give us a we come up to a minefield and she holds out her hand.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm going to walk ahead. You walk one step at a time.
And let's be honest here, because our Lady is very, very generous, and especially in the beginning, if you start praying the rosary, you pray for something, there's every chance you'll get it, and every chance you'll get it fast. Okay, but here's the difference. You can do that and you can get an answered prayer. But the difference between an answered prayer and the path of prayer
That's it.
is enormous. Because what happens is if you find yourself on the path of prayer, and that's a path that you can really only walk in relationship to other people who are helping you and who are journeying with you and inspiring you and who are receiving your inspiration and your love, right? The path of prayer gives you tremendous confidence because when you come up against what seems like a setback or an obstacle or something perilous or some dangerous situation, rather than retreating, rather than being defeated, rather than being terrified or frightened or fearful, you learn to center yourself in prayer and in spiritual friendship. And when you're able to do that, you're never stopped, right? There are no dead ends. You're always going forward.
Here's a question. You have a set of beads, have a lady. Do you have friends? Do you have rosary friends?
Yeah,
And we do have rosary friends here on Way of the Rose.
yeah,
But I would invite everybody to find a circle that works for them. If you would like a different circle, start a different circle. Make it
right,
work for you.
right,
Make it work for you.
right.
Barbara Noble does a meeting every morning at 8 o'clock. I do not work at 8 o'clock in the morning, unfortunately. I keep trying to get up and go there, but that's not me.
I'm up, but I'm not.
You're making my coffee.
I'm making her coffee, and I'm
So
not.
I
I'm
don't
not
do, but we're work,
conscious.
but the afternoon meetings work for me. And so what you want is to have rosary friends.
Yeah,
You want people because what you need, sometimes people come on and they come on and ask for prayer petitions on Way of the Rose. Thank God, please do that. And yet I also hope those people have prayer circles to bring those petitions to.
yeah,
And not just to drop the prayer, but to tease it open
right.
and to feel it held by a lot of different people. Because when you feel that prayer held,
Your own prayer becomes really powerful when you feel the power of other people's prayer at your back. It becomes like a wind that fills your
that's the
sails.
wind.
Yeah, that's the wind.
And we generate it, all of us, by our faith. It comes from all of that faith gathered together. And so I would really encourage, there's a Zoom meeting at 8 o'clock. Hop
Just
on and
just
join us.
saying. Yeah, just saying.
8 o'clock p.m., which is the time I love. Um,
Eastern Standard Time. So that's 15 minutes from now. We're going to be ending this video live video in about 2 or 3 minutes, and then 15 minutes from now we'll have the
Also,
reading.
hop in and do a novena. We're going to do a Saint Anne novena. They're 54-day
That's right.
novenas. Let me tell you some of my other favorite novenas. If you ask for prayers on Way of the Rose, I often say, I'm doing an ER novena for you. What that means is I say 9 memoraries in a row. That's that prayer, the
Yeah,
memorare prayer.
that's
And
right.
then when you tell me things are all right, I say a 10th prayer in gratitude to Our Lady.
Yeah,
So it's not like, oh, I just said, oh, pray for them. No, I sit there and I do an ER novena.
right,
There's
right.
also the hardest novena I've ever done in my life is the novena to the Infant of Prague.
Oh yeah, that's a really
It's a
tough one.
killer.
It's an incredibly simple little prayer. It fits on the back of like a business card, right? It's only about maybe 100 words long, but you have to say it at the exact same minute for 9 hours straight. And I think it took us five
Five times a
days
day, 5 days to get it right.
to get it right. Finally, we
We'd
managed
miss
to
an
do
hour.
it. So that's a day long
But we
novena.
really wanted that one, so we
Yeah.
worked
So
on
there are all
it.
kinds of novenas. There are 9 day novenas. There are 9 hour novenas. There are 9 minute novenas. Remember, it
And
takes
Connor
about
Kelly
nine
is here.
minutes.
Connor lives in Guam, and I feel like I have a soul sister in Guam. When you have prayed with somebody, and Lynn is my soul sister here in Socrates, when you've prayed with someone, there is a level of faith.
Kingston.
Oh,
Kingston.
Kingston, that's right. Faith, sorry, Lynn. Faith that you feel the intimacy of prayer, of shared prayer. If you haven't experienced it before, you do have to be very vulnerable. It's not like
Yeah.
going to a workshop. It's not
No.
like getting, some big high test teaching. It's
Yeah.
about being vulnerable
And
in
this
prayer.
this is not silent meditation. This is not sitting in a zendo, everybody staring at the floor, and this nor is this like going to a church and sitting in the pews and listening to a sermon, right? this is a full body sport. This kind of prayer.
The disciples
You're
and
in it to
Mary
win it.
are there and they're saying, what next? That's
Yeah.
their prayer. And what's
Right.
next?
Yeah.
Healing, connection,
Yeah.
intimacy, and the crowning of the goddess back in the world.
Yeah.
So that's our work. We're going to crown that lady. We're going to bring her back into the world and we're going to do it together, right?
Okay, so that's 30 minutes. We're going to wind down now. One announcement, we will not have a live video next Thursday because we're going to be doing the
The St. Anne Novena.
St. Anne Novena at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
A Zoom meeting for that.
Yeah,
But then we'll resume with the Assumption and the coronation the week after that.
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight. Thank you all so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye,
bye.
everybody.